I want to watch the news.
Are you making headway at least?
This is the news.
Schmack-a-magob! It's time for the only news that matters. And Black Sabbath's first manager, Jim Simpson, oversaw the group's early years, including the release of their first two albums and the breakthrough single, Paranoid. Before being ditched in favor of the legendary mogul Don Arden, he revisited some hometown landmarks from Sabbath's history during an interview with the Birmingham World to mark Osbourne's 75th birthday on December 3rd, showing off the first ever group photo from 1968. The Ozzy I see now on film, it's hard to relate him to the Ozzy I knew well, Simpson admits. Ozzy was a simple, straightforward guy. And by simple, I don't mean stupid, I mean uncomplicated. He was fun to be around. And back then, Simpson and Osbourne was never very confident in what he could do. All the other guys could play an instrument and pick up and make noise. He wasn't a trained singer. He just decided to be a singer. And he was never quite convinced he could get away with it. So he used to come around to my house and listen to these old blues records and sing like Jimmy Rushing and Jimmy Witherspoon. And he got interested in their backgrounds. Ozzy was always thirsty for information. He was very open and trusting, asking questions all the time about the origins of music. He liked learning, and he's a very good learner. Simpson admits that Osbourne took his cue from some of those old singers to shout above Black Sabbath's music. Said like Jimmy Rushing, he had this voice that started somewhere in his stomach and it came out in the nicest possible way. As a bellow, it was a nice voice, but he was very much lacking in confidence and needed to be bolstered all the time and told he could do it. Meanwhile, the other guys in the band rather sneered at him, looking down at him a little bit because he couldn't play an instrument. And he grew up, he became the main man in Sabbath, and after a while everyone began to see that. Simpson, who remained active in the Birmingham music scene, also remembered having Osbourne's parents co-sign his management contract since he was too young to do it alone. Said his dad was very interested in how we were going to make Ozzy famous. They were very civilized and rather bewildered by it all, and confused as to why their John was going to be a rock and roll star as we all believed. But they got used to it, I think. As the moment when Black Sabbath left him behind, Simpson said they all walked out on their contracts after a couple years, but at least we had something to go to court with. And there you go. Yeah, I know Black Sabbath was mercilessly ripped off. I don't know, Jim Simpson probably had something to do with it, but I know that one guy, man, that was managing them and they sued him during recording Sabotage. Like many years later, I read this in Geezer Butler's book, that after he left Sabbath, after Born Again, like he went back to Tony, to see what was going on, and Tony had that same manager they sued back on the Sabotage days. He was now managing Tony, and Geezer was like, oh, screw that. I don't want nothing to do with this. Which is kind of crazy how Tony would rehire this guy. He sued because that guy was ripping Black Sabbath off mercilessly. And Tony Iommi one time told a story where some guy, this is before they had a record or anything, some guy went up to Tony like telling him how much Ozzy sucked to get rid of him, and Ozzy was standing right there. Like he said everything in front of Ozzy. And, you know, it's pretty amazing how Ozzy stuck to it, the self-confidence, you know? Because he was being told left and right he wasn't good enough and he's not a musician. And, yep, he ended up becoming the face of Black Sabbath. That I read upset Tony when he saw Ozzy was the only person on the Volume 4 album cover. And after he saw that, Tony took center stage and they placed Ozzy to the left of the stage. And Tony was in the middle. So, I mean, say what you want about Ozzy, but he was one of the greatest frontmen back then, yelling at the crowd to get into it. Ozzy was an amazing frontman, and yes, I think he was an amazing singer. A lot of people don't think that, but hey, my sympathy, my condolences that you don't get to enjoy the amazing voice of Ozzy Osbourne that I enjoy, who's a true legend. And everything he did with Black Sabbath, in my opinion, in the 70s was awesome, was the best. My favorite band, 70s Black Sabbath, with 80s Merciful Fate. Now let this be a lesson to all of you out there. Don't ever feel you're below anything. Look at what happened to Ozzy. Oh, you're not good enough. They would make fun of him. People said he sucked. And look at Ozzy today. And that goes for so many bands. Kiss, Van Halen was, Rolling Stone was saying they ain't gonna last a couple albums. You know, and all of them were proven wrong. Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin never got one favorable review from Rolling Stone, and just about every publication hated both those bands. Now, both those bands are getting lathered in the buttocks by the tongue of those that bashed them in the 70s. Yes, Rolling Stone magazine had to eat crow and allow Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And even worse for the Rolling Stone dweebs, putting Kiss in there must have drove them insane. But they're sellouts. Oh, let's induct Kiss because it'll bring people to our show and we can make money, you know. And the tables, we're going to charge tens of thousands of dollars for a table. Oh, don't let me get into this Rock and Roll Hall of Lame rant, you know, which I'm pretty pissed that Black Sabbath's in there, and I'm pretty pissed because before Black Sabbath was in there, years before that, Ozzy wrote a letter saying, I don't want to be in that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Screw you guys. Which I was like, yes, yes. But then they got inducted and Ozzy went all smiles and stuff. And in case none of you heard, Sharon Osbourne is pissed now that Ozzy's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Which of course, you know, in logical terms, he should be. As a solo artist, yes. Him and Randy Rhoads. Randy Rhoads is in there. So, yeah, might as well put in Ozzy. I mean, I wish they wouldn't, because I hate that damn place. But in time, I've realized I don't really hate them as much as the people that care about the Rock and Roll Hall of Lame. Those are the people, they're even worse than the Rock and Roll Hall of Lame. Y'all care what they all think, which makes you lamer than the Rock and Roll Hall of Lame. And I'll tell you this, I really doubt any of my subscribers out there care about what the Rock and Roll Hall of Lame has to say. Because all my subscribers are awesome. And you still listening right now. If you're not subscribed, come on. You're awesome. Subscribe to my channel. You're the perfect person I'm looking for to be a subscriber. Somebody awesome. And you all are awesome. So please subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and, you know, leave your comments below. What do you feel, you know, poor Ozzy, you know, and staying strong and Black Sabbath rules and all that stuff. and leave it in the comments below. And like the video. It's good for the YouTube algorithms. So stay frosty. Listen to Black Sabbath and smack 'em a gob.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. For we've received orders for to sail back to Boston. And so never more shall we see you again.